Ryan Ham here, and what you see is a pair of survival rifles. They are both 22 caliber. This one is a modern Henry U.S. survival rifle, and this one here is a Charter Arms AR-7. This one from the early to mid 80s, and this one here, I think it's around 2016 or 2017 manufacture. And we'll start with the Henry U.S. Survival. The first step in putting one of these rifles together, assuming it's all complete, is to pry up the butt pad just a little bit. It helps if you've done this before, so you kind of know what the feel is. And then the pad kind of comes off. It's just an empty plastic shell. We'll set that aside. And inside you will see there is the receiver, one magazine, and a barrel. There's a slot here for another magazine, but I've got one installed on the gun. So let's take the magazine out here. We could take the receiver out here, and you see I've got a magazine installed in there. Magazine release is right here, so you just push forward on it and pull the magazine out. Bolt handle stows here on the side of the gun. You just pull that out, and then you can charge it. The barrel also comes out. It is a plastic lined with stainless steel barrel, and you see the front side also plastic here, and the barrel nut appears to be aluminum here, and then you can see the rear end. You can see how the stainless steel sleeve goes into the plastic. One nice thing about having the plastic is you could grab the barrel because you're not going to leave fingerprints that might rust on there. To assemble the gun, there's that little steel pin. You want to line that up with this notch here and just slide it on. You can see the bolt. It requires a little bit of movement there, but it should be just fine here. Screw the barrel on. I'm going to pull the bolt back a little bit so that it's easier to screw the barrel on, and there you go. So the next step is to install the buttstock, and you just slide it on and then just screw that screw in until you feel it tighten. And that is about right. So that is the gun assembled. For a closer look, it's a Henry Arms U.S. Survival AR-7. So the U.S. Air Force wanted a firearm that they could stow inside of an aircraft so that if the pilot or aircrew had to bail out, they had some way of protecting themselves. The original Armalite design was a 22 Hornet bolt action called the AR-5, and the AR-5 was actually adopted by the United States Air Force, but I don't think it saw widespread use. The sources say that Gene Stoner designed the AR-5 and the AR-7, although I don't know if it was Stoner or Sullivan or somebody else at the company that actually did. You see Gene Stoner's name attached to a lot of items just because he was the lead engineer, not necessarily because he was doing all of the development work himself. From 1959 to 1973, the Armalite company produced these AR-7s, which are semi-automatic 22 caliber adaptation of the AR-5. In 1973, Charter Arms started producing the same gun. We'll go into that in a minute with the Charter Arms over here. And then later on down the road, the design got kicked around a little bit. In 1990, a company called Survival Arms out of Cocoa, Florida was producing the gun. And then from 1998 to 2004, AR-7 Industries in Connecticut was producing the guns. The Henry Repeating Arms Company produced their own version, and that started in 1997. They continue to produce the gun to this day, and I don't foresee them changing that in the near future because it's a decent design, and you get a number of people who are interested in them. I haven't tested it, but it is said that this rifle will float. I'm not planning on trying to float this gun. This is not my rifle. This is actually a family member's rifle. So you have a rear sight that is adjustable. You just unscrew the screw and you can move it up and down. And the front side is adjustable for windage. You can drift it side to side. You've already seen the magazine release. Here's the safety. Rear is safe. The gun sits offset in the stock to the right a little bit. And the grip on it, I've got large hands. The grip on it is fairly large. So if you've got kids that you intend to teach how to shoot on this, they probably won't be grabbing the grip. They'll probably just be tucking their hand under there to... Let me take it apart and I'll show you how the inner workings work a little bit more. You just unscrew the barrel nut. And the barrel just pulls right out. And then you unscrew this screw on the bottom of the pistol grip that holds the stock onto the receiver. And Jake and Zoe are barking at somebody. Don't mind them. They haven't eaten an intruder yet. Alrighty, so there's your receiver assembly. And the way to take the bolt out is fairly simple. If I pull it back, you can see that there's an enlarged portion of the slot where the charging handle rides. When it's all the way forward and there's a barrel on there, the charging handle sticks back a little bit, so you can't pull it out. And when there's no barrel on there, it sticks forward a little bit, so you can't pull it out. So it's mostly captive. But if you move the bolt just a little bit back, it will line up with that hole a little better. And you can just pull it out, see that? And then the bolt and the two springs come back. And fairly simple, typical 22 bolt design where you've got the firing pin on the top and you've got the extractor over here. And then you can see the ejector, that's that piece sticking up inside of there. The safety just blocks the trigger and keeps it from firing. So the hammer will stay back with the safety on. So this little piece was down inside of the receiver. I didn't show you that earlier as I was trying to assemble it. I remembered this little piece has to slide through the two recoil springs. It didn't come with the bolt assembly, but in order to get the bolt assembly back in, you kind of have to have that out of there. So assembling it just simply involves pushing this back in, and then lining up the hole here with the opening there. You can do that by just pushing in on the front end with your finger, and that's pretty much it. And this is what the top of the magazine looks like. It's got this little finger that extends in, spring steel, to hold the rounds kind of on top there. Go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take apart the Charter Arms AR-7, and we'll take a look at that and see what the difference is. So with the Charter Arms AR-7 above and the Henry US Survival down below, you can see that there's a lot of similarities. One thing you'll notice is the ribbing on top of the Henry, just a 22 long rifle rail that's got a Picatinny look to it. The Charter Arms has a similar ribbing on the top, but that's just for sighting. There is no rail. There's no way to install a scope easily on this gun. Another thing you'll notice is that from directly behind, from the Charter Arms on the left and the Henry on the right, the rear side aperture is actually flippable. There's a tiny hole here and a large hole here on the Henry, and there's just the large hole on the Charter Arms, and you can install the Henry sight on the Charter Arms if you wish, and that will give you a smaller aperture, and you can get those from Henry. The safety is real easy to manipulate on the Henry, and it feels like you need a sledgehammer to operate the one on the Charter Arms. The bolt on this one is left in the white, whereas the bolt on the Henry US Survival has been blued. So again, on the right I've got the Henry, and on the left I have the Charter Arms. See some differences immediately. The most obvious difference is going to be this little spring here that's on the Henry that is not on the Charter Arms. And sure enough, if you try to put the Charter Arms one into the Henry, it works. It seems to work fantastically. But if you try to put the Henry into the Charter Arms, it doesn't go. I'm not trying to force it or anything, but I do not believe, at least in my instance, that those are compatible. The barrel is where the largest difference is going to be. This one, of course, says 22 long rifle only. You see the barrel's kind of scratched. The barrel is an aluminum sleeve around the steel liner on the Charter arms. The slot on the Henry below has got a steel pin in there to align it. The slot alignment pin is just molded into the aluminum on this one. The front sight on the Henry, of course, we remember it's a plastic liner over a stainless steel core with a plastic front sight. On the Charter, it appears to be an aluminum front sight, and of course the aluminum barrel jacket on there. Yeah, so the Charter does seem to be heavier, but only by a bit than the Henry does. The stocks are an area where there's another major difference. Here's the stock on the Henry, and you can see the two slots for magazines, the one for the rifle, and the one for the rifle will actually allow you to put the rifle in with a magazine in there. So you can store 1, 2, and then 1 on the gun. Charter Arms, however, has a slot for only 1 magazine, and the slot for the receiver does not allow you to put the receiver in if you've got a magazine installed. The butt pads are very similar. Henry on the right, and the AR-7 Explorer by Charter Arms on the left. The Henry US Survival also has these ribs on it, which make it very convenient and give you a little more purchase. So let me put the guns back together and we'll give you a final wrap-up. The barrel isn't bending here, it's just the wide angle lens. My opinion on these rifles is what you should use them for is exactly what they were designed for. Put them on a boat, put them on an airplane, in a car where it's illegal to do all of those things. Take them out occasionally and clean them. Store them where they're handy, you know, in the garage, somewhere like that. They're not very expensive. You don't have to store them loaded, and in fact I wouldn't suggest you store them loaded. But the Henry US Survival model seems to have the advantage there in that you can store it with, the capacity is 8 rounds per magazine. So you should be able to store it with 24 rounds. Just a little handy hint. You see the top round in the magazine. Now normally one would push the magazine, or the top round in the magazine down with the next round. But that would work great, and it does work, and you can do that. But an easier way to do that, especially as the magazine gets full, is just to push with the backside, slip it in underneath the lips just a little bit, and then fold the round down. So you push down, pull back, and fold the round down, and then push it all the way in. It'll avoid your fingers and thumbs from getting cut because there's some pretty sharp edges on the magazine. So pull back and just let it go. There you go. Should be good. Of course, the other one was the one having that problem. Should have 2 more. Or maybe no, maybe that was it. Try it again. Yeah. Should be it. This is Ryan Ham. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, whatever you feel comfortable doing, and I will have more in the near future. I'll see you at the range.